So here you go. All the information I'm providing is sort of for educational and entertainment purposes. It's not for personal use. So if I do say anything that you think is relevant to yourselves, make sure you always check with your own healthcare professional. Also, bear in mind that my expertise is in the NHS in the UK. So if you are anywhere else in the world, the legalities may change. There is some things on nootropics that I have realised is different across the whole of the world in regards the regulations and such like. So the first thing to say regarding nootropics that's been recommended is that near enough every single person who is trying to say that their supplements contain nootropics is pronouncing it wrong. It comes from the Greek word of noos, which means thinking, and tropic, which means to bend and turn. So it means things that affect the mind in a positive way. So think of also, you might have heard the other word of psychotropic. So psychotropic is means psycho means the mind, and tropic means to bend or turn, and that one's psychotropic agents give you sort of psychotic episodes, euphoria, hallucinations, all of those sort of things. But nootropics, they're any substance, natural or synthetic, that has a positive impact on mental skills. So so when they all say nootropic, now it's from the noos Greek, so it's nootropic. So now you're never going to be able to listen to any of the supplement people again without going, you're pronouncing it wrong. Never mind everything else that they say that's wrong. So they're also known as smart drugs. So it's any chemical that can sort of have a positive influence on the brain. So many of them, it's to do with increasing the blood flow, the glucose, the oxygen, and the neurotransmitters in the brain, so that your brain is more alert, functioning better, improving memory and skills. So there's a lot of abuse potential of anything that seems to have a nootropic action, because people are always wanting to be on their best. However, whenever you come to doing any studies on these agents, there is a very large placebo effect of all of these agents, because if you are thinking that you are going to do better and you're more confident because you think this agent is going to make you think better, do better, then you will have that positive attitude and therefore you will do better. So in a lot of the studies, when it comes to using the nootropic agents, you would be very, very influenced by that. So there's a very large placebo effect. And we've probably seen this with all the supplement companies. They think that their supplement is going to work so well that they look out for anything positive to say about it. So they probably forget the fact that they had side effects or such like, and they just focus on all the positive things that they've had that day. And they may have just had a good day anyway. So before we go on to sort of what the agents are, there are actually better ways to improve your cognitive function. Ensure you've got the best sleep that you have, reduce the amount of stress that you have, and ensure that you have all the nutrients in your diet. So, I'm assuming that the kale is for the rabbits. They must think that I'm very healthy when I go down to Tesco's and buy kale, cabbage, carrots. It's all for my rabbits, it's not for me. So, yeah, I had no idea either, but I've been through some sort of fairly reliable sources of how actually to pronounce it, both the Oxford English Dictionary, Cambridge dictionary. And even if you pronounce it with American accent, it is still nootropic, just with an American accent, which I can't do. So, yeah, so it's not that there's an American version and an English version, but both the UK and the US are supposed to pronounce it the same. So the shelter's named after Maybelline because of her eyeliner. Yeah, my two rabbits. I've got Dougal, who is a steel agouti, and Nutella, who is a dwarf Dutch. So, hi, Kirsten. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do like an omelette with a bit of kale or spinach in it. I'm just saying. Hi, Sam. Yep, the guinea pigs do. But difference between guinea pigs and rabbits: guinea pigs require more vitamin C in their diet, so really keeping them together can be difficult because you need to make sure that they have two different feeds. So, very interesting. Yeah, it's very hard when there is a massive placebo effect to certain agents. And that's why the majority of these supplements, whenever you see the studies that they do, they hardly ever have a placebo arm to the trial. And even if they do have a placebo arm, they hardly ever do a randomized, controlled, double-blind study. Probably need to explain what that is. So when drugs do studies, it needs to be randomized, as in you've got a whole set of people and you randomly pick half to have the drug and half to have the placebo. So placebo controlled means that you've got one half having the drug, one half having the placebo. Randomized, but when you do randomize them, you also then, in the background, you do statistics to make sure that both groups are fairly similar, even though they've been randomized. So you compare the fact that you similar amount of males in females in each, the similar amount of age ranges in each, similar amounts of underlying conditions in each group. And then when you do the thing, double blind means as well as the person that's receiving the tablets or supplements don't know what they're taking, also the person that is handing them out doesn't know who's getting the real one and who's not, because a big part of the placebo effect is the healthcare professional. So if you've got a healthcare professional that really believes in what they're giving and really promotes that this is the best option, then the person taking it is going to really believe that too, and that is going to really add on to the placebo effect. So you've got to make sure that they don't know whether they're giving out the real or the dummy as well. So yeah, so that's what you do. And you do not find supplement companies putting in this amount of effort, because it does take a lot of time and money and resources to do large placebo-controlled randomized trials. And they just want all the profit for themselves in the supplement companies. And I was thinking about this yesterday when we were talking about how Big Pharma is just creating money. Yes, Big Pharmas and medicines do cost quite a bit, but that's because they're having to recoup the amount of money that they have put into all of those studies. So yeah, and then they have to have the statisticians behind it to do the analysis and check that it is. And sometimes if there's already other drugs on the market that do a similar, they can't just show that it's better than placebo. They also have to show that it's non-inferior to the best drug that's already currently on the market treating it. They have to show that they're not going to be any worse than what's currently on the market. They've got to be as good or non-inferior to the agents that are already being used. And that amount of research does take a lot of money. So yeah, Big Pharma do need to charge to get that money back. And they only have a limited amount of time of maybe sort of five to 8 years to do that before it's off patent and everybody else copies the drug and makes it for cheaper. So yeah, Big Pharma do have to recoup quite a lot of money. but they're not doing it to scam anybody. They're doing it so then they can put the research and the development into the next set of medications. Okay, they probably do overpay some of the top people, and there probably is more money in the system and people getting richer, but they're not being evil. And when you think of the supplement companies, they haven't put all of that money into it, but they are recouping. And also, as I was saying yesterday on DC's live, so if anybody hasn't already been over to DC, if you I'll leave a link afterwards, because I'm not as good on StreamYard and I don't have any Nightbot to link to her. But these supplement companies that are using the MLM structure, they're not paying their drug reps a decent amount of money and education to promote the agents. They're just doing it off people for free. So I'll just catch up with the comments again. Oh, yeah, not that Kate. I'll probably just call you Kate from now on. Confirmation bias. Yeah, it is so powerful. So you take the supplement in the day and then you're on the lookout for everything positive that happens that day. Also, you can have that when you talk about something and then you hear the same thing 3 or 4 more times that day, because your brain's already heightened to thinking about that. So if I tell you that there seems to have been an uprise of yellow cars, you will go out tomorrow and you will see loads of yellow cars, because every single time you see a yellow car, you'll be reminded, oh yeah, Eloise said about yellow cars. And that confirmation bias will be coming back on. Where am I? Right, yes. So it is amethyst. So amethyst isn't my birthstone, but amethyst is my favourite crystal. I've also, as a side, just for fun, I did do a geoscience degree. And I love crystals, rocks, all of that. So I can sidetrack, and I could tell you all about Icelandic volcanoes and the current Icelandic volcano, but I ought to actually put that on a separate channel and a separate subject. Right. So. Oh, hello, Marie. Yes, exactly. Even before you start human studies in humans, you've got all the lab testing and such like that you do. So there's lab testing that you do on sort of cell cultures in the lab to see whether they actually go and have the action on the receptors that they're supposed to have. And even just sort of the lab studies to check that it dissolves in the right concentration in the sort of the right bodily fluids and such like that. There's so much that does at the background. And I also was thinking about this yesterday when we was mentioning about doing the testing in petri dishes of chemicals against cancer. So they're promoting that you can test your cancer against certain chemicals in the lab. And yeah, you can. You could probably get the cancer cells, put them in petri dishes, and then try certain different chemicals on them to see the action. And yes, certain things will attack and kill the cancer cells in the petri dish, but that's not the same as putting it in your body. And we actually had this when a certain president during the certain C virus pandemic was saying, Dettol, your bleach, it kills the virus. And it's like, yes, it does kill the virus. That's why, it already said on the back of every different disinfectant kills 99.9% of germs, including viruses. And yes, it does. But you cannot get that amount of concentration flowing through your blood to have the effect on the virus in your blood without also killing you as a human. So when they say that these different certain chemicals and supplements can kill cancer cells, yeah, probably is. If you take the cancer cells out of the person, douse them with them, then it will kill them. But you can't get that level in the blood supply onto the cancer and to purely just kill the cancer without killing the rest of the body. That's the current problem that we have with chemotherapy. There's so many side effects to chemotherapy because although it has the action on the cancer, it's also having the reaction to the rest of the body. And cancer cells multiply massively and quickly. And so any other cells in your body that's also doing that, that's where cancer can also affect it. So things that are still growing on your body, even as an adult, is your hair, your fingernails, your bone marrow. And that's why chemotherapy also affects those. So your hair, which is always continually growing, that's why your hair can fall out with chemotherapy. And they do certain things like putting on sort of a frozen ice pack on your scalp while you're having the chemotherapy infusion to reduce the blood flow to your hair, to try and so not as much of the chemotherapy goes to your hair and you retain some. So there's other things that they can do, but yeah, how things affect in the body is totally different to how they act in the in the body, in the cells, right? So yeah, I will talk about the Icelandic. I love it. I've been to Iceland 3 times. In my geoscience degree, I did actually write my dissertation about the volcanoes in Iceland and the fluoride poisoning from the Lakey eruption that affected all the sheep and cattle and caused a famine across Europe. So, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was trying to politely say. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, true. So cancer cells are just your own body cells that have mutated. Yeah, it's not like a parasite that's come in and started growing in your body. It's your own cells that have mutated, gone wrong, and are going. And there's many different types of why they can mutate, whether you've already got some genetic coding that increases the risk of the mutation, which is quite often what they test families for with different types of cancers, or as in sort of with cervical cancer, if those cells have been affected by the HPV virus, it makes them more likely to mutate. So, yeah. But the other thing with cancer is that cancer is not just one condition. It's hundreds and thousands of different types of way that cells can mutate to be cancerous. So there's hundreds and thousands of ways that you need to treat that cancer, and how different chemotherapy. It's not just chemotherapy for cancer. There's hundreds of different drugs out there that need to be to the exact type of cancer. So you need to look at the cancer, and you do then need to see which one of the current chemotherapy agents is it sensitive to attack it, which is where some of these people have sort of said, yeah, you take the cancer to check what to kill it with, but it has to be agents that you also know that you can get in your body in the correct concentrations to actually work. Oh, hi, Natasha. Nice that you've joined us as well. Yeah, the ice on the head, it's growing in popularity. Its use. Obviously, they ask the patient whether they want that. Some people are happy to lose their hair and just go, right, let's shave it off. I'm going with this. Or they go, right, I'm just going to go straight into wearing a wig. It depends on the person. And all of this, it does need to, such a horrendous disease that there needs to be a lot of those sort of decisions need to be patient led. They need to know all the different options and take control, because with the cancer being somewhat out of their control, whatever control that they can take back with their life and their life choices, it needs to be there. Yeah, we are not injecting everybody with bleach. No. Yeah, I want to just not suppose jump on a plane and go to Iceland. Supposedly, if you go in the Blue Lagoon, you can actually see from the Blue Lagoon where the eruption site is, and you can see the sort of the smoke that's coming off. So, yeah, I'd love to go back. Just time. Hiya, Andrea. Yep, welcome. So let me get back onto sort of the nootropics. So we have a nootropic that we all use. Well, I would say 99% of people use. The biggest one is caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. I've talked about it very often in your tea and your coffee, small amounts in chocolate, large amounts in energy drinks. Let's not put it as an enema for those people that haven't already known and want to know the reasons why. I've got a previous video on coffee enemas and why they are dangerous. So if you haven't seen that before, go and have a look at that. But yeah, caffeine is a stimulant. It increases your heart rate, your blood flow, your awakeness. It acts as a stimulant in the brain. It increases the acetylcholine concentration in the brain, which acts on all the receptors, so it can increase short-term memory and learning. So yeah, having your caffeine before a learning session can boost your concentration. Can be very useful. People quite often use caffeine to keep awake, but then also people that are neurodivergent and have ADHD quite often self-medicate with caffeine because it helps keep focus, and it really helps with people with ADHD keep focus if they don't actually have other medication that's prescribed. One thing that you do find is that people with ADHD, because of the way that it causes focus in the brain in those with ADHD, it actually can be calming for them. And it can actually, whereas for the majority of people, caffeine causes insomnia and keeps you awake, for quite often you'll find with people with ADHD, it actually helps them fall asleep because it actually sort of focuses the brain and allows the noise in the brain to settle down so that can focus and they can actually fall asleep. So, yeah, but yes, it can give the jitters. It can also cause palpitations. So anybody who has any sort of heart arrhythmias or anything should avoid it. So yeah, quite a lot of you that, yeah, you live for coffee. Yeah. So Kirsten, that's interesting. Yeah, so you find that the energy drinks calm you down. So yes, for some people that can happen. Hi Shelby, that's fine. We've covered quite a bit. You might want to go back on the replay, crew, but good to have you here. Right, getting used to this StreamYard. I'm not fully fully pro. So yeah, Pamela, quite often, quite a lot of people do have tea at night to sleep. Right, trying to keep up. I'm getting better at keeping up with the comments, and StreamYard does make it better. Oh, I just think it's amazing, Marie and Kate, that you have second languages. I may be brilliant at the science, but I have never been any good with languages, and never apologize for English being your second language. You do amazing. You do so much better than the 95% plus people who have English speaking and are ignorant when it comes to speaking in any other language and expect everybody to go over to English. So I just think it's amazing. So yeah, always be proud of what you have achieved in learning of English. Never apologize for what you haven't. So yeah. Hi April. Yeah, all our bodies react differently to different substances. It depends on what the physiological of your body already is, what you're already deficient in, what you're already good at, what you need. So yeah, everybody reacts differently. Some people are a lot more sensitive, need a lot lower dosages of things. Some people are allergic to things that other people aren't, depending whether you've got a heightened immune system and a heightened immune response to allergies. Yeah. Oh. 2 years of Spanish. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is so hard to learn another language. So I'd say I'm fluent in English and medical terminology. So there's other supplements and agents. There's many different ones. It's not just caffeine and coffee and tea that people found. There's ginseng and ginkgo biloba. That they're other ones that are agents that help with focus, help with stimulants, and yeah, there's a whole range. Another one that I found was very interesting is creatine is also labeled as a nootropic, because as well as sort of helping increase with muscle mass, it also helps increase the ATP levels, which increases the amount of cell energy. So as well as the cell energy in muscles and increasing muscle mass, also does that in the brain as well. So you may find that when you take that, if you're doing workouts and you use it as a pre-workout, can improve your focus for both your mind and your body. So yep, Kate, medical terminology is a whole other language. So yeah, so the when we come on to them, so we do have a lot of prescription drugs and also illegal drugs that are nootropic. So we've put it moved on to sort of ADHD. So we've already mentioned a lot of people self-medicate with caffeine even before they know that they actually truly have a ADHD or truly or manage to fight the system enough to actually get themselves a diagnosis of ADHD. And so then you have your ADHD medication, which the first and the main one is the methylphenidate, and then you have a whole load of other ones related to that, the amphetamines, the dexamphetamines, and such like, and they all sort of increase focus in the brain, increase the choline and acetylcholine, and keep the brain more focused. But they've got side effects, because although you're having that positive effect on the brain and you're pushing your brain to one side, you've then got to sort of deal with the reverse of that. So it can cause insomnia, can cause blurred vision. They can cause high blood pressure. So anybody that is on any ADHD medicines should have their blood pressure closely monitored. Can cause tachycardia along with that, so the high heart rate. So that needs to be monitored because of that, because it's increasing the blood pressure and the tachycardia in your body's sort of innate metabolism. It can cause weight loss, and then obviously there's all the addiction to it. Your brain gets used to having it to focus, and therefore your brain, when it's not got it there, can actually need it and crave it and need it back. Now there is a difference between addiction and tolerance and stuff, but I won't go into that there. But yeah, so there's the sort of the ADHD, and then obviously along with that you've got the illegal stimulants such as your cocaine and then your amphetamines that have not been made into medicines for ADHD but are sold on the black market. And unfortunately, ADHD medicines, they're classed as controlled drugs because there's so many people that abuse it. And then that makes it so much harder for those people that have got ADHD and need to get it, because it's got all the extra restrictions of it being a controlled drug. And especially here in the UK, a lot of the prescribing has to be done. It has to be started and initiated by a consultant in a specialist centre. And then only after somebody is stable can it be passed as shared care over to the GP to do some of the prescribing. But it needs to stay as shared care with the consultant on board. and they can only give 30 days on a prescription in certain amounts. You can only have you've got to make sure that you're running down to sort of only a few tablets before you can get your next prescription. And I know it's the same in the US as well. Yeah, I know, Kirsten, it is, because it's a controlled drug, and they're trying to make sure it doesn't fall into drug addicts' hands. It can make it seem so hard, and I think there does need to be a bit of a better way that when people are not just ADHD medicines, but when you come on to needing your high dose opioids, especially sort of for palliative care and everything, and the people that are needing it, they need a bit more sort of sensitivity around it, that they're not drug addicts. They're having something because they need it to function. And just because another subset of the population want to abuse it shouldn't stop those people getting it in the correct amounts. So, yeah, it is very hard. The other things that the nootropics are being investigated and used for is for dementia and for Alzheimer's. A lot of the newer agents that we're getting for dementia and for Alzheimer's are to do with increasing the choline production in the brain, because it's the lack of acetylcholine in the brain and on the synapses. And so a lot of the newer agents for Alzheimer's, such as the memantine, the donepezil, and such like, are all being used. And there's a lot of these supplements of the nootropics are being promoted to enhance cognitive function and preserve cognitive function into people that are getting older, especially because there does seem to be a drop during menopause, and I can see a lot of these getting promoted to people that are perimenopause and in the menopause. So, sorry, I think I've missed a bit in the chat. I'm going to try and come back. Yeah. So but you should know that, the doctor prescribed it. Other people should know that, they've done it for a reason. And and I do think that there needs to be a bit more training for pharmacists to sort of say, it's been done, maybe a bit more sort of sharing at the record, so that they can see that, this person genuinely needs it. They genuinely, when they need to reorder, they need to reorder it. Okay, see you later, Tanya. Have a good time. Yeah. Oh, I think right. Oh, to get to get your ADHD medication. Yeah, it can be hard to. Is that to check that it's in your system and that you're not selling it on to somebody else? Because that quite often does happen. And I do know of parents who their child does genuinely have the ADHD. The child should have their ADHD medication, but the parents are that either strapped for cash or under the influence of other drug dealers, that they're selling it or passing it on, either willingly or under duress. And the kid may not always be getting what they need, which is such a shame. Interesting. It's a slightly different, the ones that they use. So obviously, sort of cocaine is more of a stimulant to keep them awake. The other ones, the ones that they're using for dementia, are more acting on the choline, acetylcholine pathways, rather than sort of the noradrenaline pathways. But yeah. Hi, Lynn. Good to have you here as well. There is that. There is so much interactions between all of these different medicines, as if having one of them doesn't have an effect, there's the add-on effect. So with any of them, even sort of adding caffeine on can end up adding to the negative effects more than it actually adds to the positive effects. There is also the other thing of, well, especially what happens with drug users is they go too high on one agent that they then need the opposite. So they then need the narcotics to act as a depressant to have a down. And you end up, especially some of the higher amount of drug users, they can go from one high to another and then exponentially keep going up to something that provides even a higher high, to then having something that counteracts to got an even lower low. With, I think, the most sort of media case for this is Michael Jackson, when he ended up, because he was so high on some agents, he then needed to have literally anesthetics to help him then sleep. And then it was the doctor that prescribed an anesthetic that actually caused the problem. So, yeah. So, Sudafed, yes, the pseudoephedrine. Unfortunately, the pseudoephedrine can be taken out and abused because of the ephedrine in it, and it can cause a high. Yeah. So it's so much. Yeah. So yeah. So it depends on where you are and what the legislations are of it. So family of 10 trying to buy all the cough and cold, and there is talk. I don't know exactly where we've got to it. I need to read the thing, but they're even thinking of removing any products, cough and cold products containing codeine off the shelves in the UK because of the codeine content in them. The issue with codeine is that it can be serious in overdose, especially in children, because you've got two types of people that have got different enzymes in the liver. And one type of people, the codeine sort of metabolizes, you metabolize about 1/10 of the codeine into morphine. And so you have the effect of both the codeine and the morphine causing sort of all their side effects. But in some people, they mega transpose the codeine over to morphine, which obviously is much more potent and can actually overdose. And there has been times, especially with very small children, if they're given codeine and they're one of these super metabolizers, they super metabolize it over to morphine and can actually have respiratory depression and death from the codeine. So codeine shouldn't actually ever be given to children. And now they're actually thinking of taking codeine off over-the-counter sales. Yes, Patricia. Yes, they can. Yeah, you can get a backstreet chemistry lab to convert pseudoephedrine into cocaine, unfortunately. Can't make so much meth with one packet. Yeah. Phenyl ephedrine. For some people it does. For some people it doesn't. Unfortunately, yeah, it's not as good. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And it also wouldn't surprise me if they were putting it in on purpose. I can't remember which one it is. I'm sure one of you lot is on board, but there has been the company where there's, I think Clowntown has been covering it, where there was 2 agents that are accidentally in their supplement for weight loss that are actually illegal. And well, actually the 2 accidental chemicals that were in their product are known as banned stimulants that cause weight loss. So they weren't in there as an accident. They were in there to ensure that their supplement had an effect. So, yeah. Codeine, it is a depressant. It does actually help with sleep. So a lot of people, that is the time that I would actually say, if somebody's got a chesty cough, you never actually want to suppress the cough. However, codeine does work as a good cough suppressant because it lowers your respiratory depression as well as sort of the brain suppression. So the only time I sort of say that the codeine can be good is if you need to sort of stop the cough overnight. That can actually help. You can have the side effect of the codeine causing sleepiness as well as the reducing the cough. But yeah. Hi, DC. You must have heard your ears burn. Oh. Yeah, so the supplement, the monitoring is such a disaster. I shared in my melatonin video that, yeah, when they actually did studies of 31 different melatonin supplements from Toronto, the amount of difference in the melatonin concentration was, I think some of them had 5 times the amount that they should. 70% of them had less than 10% of what they said they should. Even within batches of the same brand, there could be 5-fold difference in what they actually contained. And then some of them not only contained melatonin, but they contained sort of the sister chemical, serotonin, of which obviously has the opposite effect in the body. Although your pineal gland helps you move between melatonin and serotonin, they have opposite effects. And again, you know, you're getting the chemical you didn't actually ask for. So, yeah, so ephedrine is illegal, yeah, because of heart attacks, because it's a stimulant and it stimulates the heart rate, increases the heart rate, can cause tachycardia, palpitations, and heart attacks. So, yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, these drug problems happen worldwide, and some countries have different legislations than others. But yeah, I wouldn't say that there's no one place that has got it under control. The ones that have got stricter controls quite often have a bigger black market. So yeah. Yeah, okay, Canada too. I think I caused a bit of confusion in my melatonin video in regards to Canada. So Canada melatonin is available over the counter, but in Canada, rather than it being classed as a food supplement like it is in the US, which has less standards, it is actually classed as a medication in Canada. So any of the products that are available over the counter do actually have to go through licensing. Therefore, there's a little bit more control on the over-the-counter medicines in Canada than there is in the US. So when I said that they were classed as medicine in Canada, it's not that they weren't available over the counter, it's that they've got more control because they actually treat it like any other over-the-counter medicines that you actually have to be of a certain quality. Whereas in the US and in other parts of the world, melatonin has no restrictions because it's just classed as a food supplement, so it just has to be reach food safeties of not contain anything toxic to you, like foods have to not contain anything toxic, but you don't actually have to have any medicinal regulations around it. Yeah, so serotonin, there's serotonin syndrome. So yes, so that's one thing that you need to be careful with when you've got multiple different drugs that can affect your serotonin levels, and especially when you're adding on multiple supplements that also claim to increase serotonin. If you're already on other medication that contain that increase your serotonin, you can be at risk. So 45 warnings with my latest antidepressant. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So your serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors, your fluoxetine, Lexapro, all of those, they increase your serotonin levels. So do your tricyclic antidepressants, such as your amitriptylines, which are often used to help with sleep and help with nerve pain. And quite often people may have a serotonin selective reuptake inhibitor to treat their anxiety and depression, but also need one of the tricyclics if they've got nerve pain, chronic pain, and sleep. They can both have that effect. But then you've also got over-the-counter supplements such as St. John's wort, 5-HTP, and all these other supplements that claim to boost your serotonin levels. Adding them all together, you can end up with serotonin syndrome. Why the products in Amer give a placebo? Yeah, I can look into that, and yeah, I'll have a look in. I really hate Amari and their claims of being the mental health wellness. There's far too many of their reps that are really promoting people to stop their medication, and also I'm not convinced that their supplements are safe alongside medicines. And I would want to always talk to a healthcare professional for those people, and I definitely wouldn't replace medication with those supplements. So yeah, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, the Amer products. Poncade, I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's not one that's available in thing. Probably the individual ingredients are. It's not one that I know for in the UK. Yeah, exactly. At least when you've got a medicinal product that's labelled as a medicinal product, you know exactly what the ingredients are, and it's got all the warnings in it. You know what you're doing. They've all been studied. You've got all your cautions, your contraindications, your warnings, your side effects. Everything has to be listed. Yeah, when it comes to supplements, they don't have to have that same level of information on the patient information leaflets. Hi, Helen. Yeah, that's fine. Patricia. Yeah, so yeah, with anxiety problems, obviously when you've got anxiety, your body is producing more cortisol, and the cortisol then affects your whole body. It has a full physiological effect on your body. So a lot of people with anxiety, people are sort of saying it's in your mind, you just need to it's not. Your body is producing more cortisol. That cortisol is then having effect on your whole body, increasing your blood pressure, increasing your heart rate, reducing the amount of digestion you do, because you can only do digestion when you're relaxed. So then you're not absorbing things as correctly. And anxiety is a full physical, it's full physical reaction to the cortisol. So not necessarily. It's not just belief. They did actually do an interesting study, and it seems to be deeper than just a belief, because they've tested placebos in different sets of people, and you've got certain people that are more easily led than other people, and and they tried to see, and the placebo effect actually works in both sets of people. You've got people that are more likely to be hypnotized than other people, and they thought, people that are more easily led, people that are more easily hypnotized, people that more easily already have belief systems, they should have a higher placebo effect, but they don't. The placebo effect works. They even think there is a physiological reason for the placebo effect. It's all very interesting. I've been doing a bit of research in that, ready to do a video on the placebo effect versus what's also known as the nocebo effect, which is the effect of side effects that you have when you take something. So people think when they take medications that they're going to get side effects. And in the placebo arm of trials, there is just as much side effects happening, because people think that I've taken this, it's going to make me feel rotten, because tablets always make me feel rotten or whatever, and they can have side effects from a placebo as well. So they always look in trials at the rate of side effects in the placebo arm to the main arm. One of the interesting things is with statins. A lot of people have associated the fact that statins cause muscle aches and pains, and they do. But you also find that the people that you're using statins in are people who've quite often just had a cardiac event. That's when they've done it. They've also then had a sudden change in their lifestyle. So they either were sedentary and they're now trying to increase their exercise, or they were exercising and then they've had a time of not exercising when they've been incapacitated, and then they're trying to start it back up again. And they're also getting into the age range where there is more muscle aches and pains. And so actually the amount of muscle aches and pains in the placebo arm of statin trials is only just below that of the actual statin arm. So but there is, Kirsten. So statins, they do have, there is a side effect where they can really cause myelitis, where there's like a really bad effect on the muscles. But the general slight achy muscles from statins is more prevalent just as a placebo. But the actual true, really muscle damage, that does need to be looked at. Dopamine, when you enjoy something, you do increase dopamine. Dopamine is your body's reward system. So if you get a dopamine hit when you feel as though you're being rewarded, the dopamine hit from gambling and such like happens. Oh, sorry, ma'am. You're all... I've got 19 people on, and it's great. So I always feel like I'm an anti-placebo if I don't understand why it should work. I don't feel any difference. I have to say, Marie, I am such a skeptic. So statins have been an amazing for high cholesterol. They have been a game changer in the sort of against cardiovascular disease. Due to statins, due to blood pressure treatments, due to heart surgery, we've now gone from and also better reducing smoking, better sort of lifestyle advice. Cardiovascular disease has gone from being number 1 to now cancer being number 1. And it's not because cancer has increased, it's because we've reduced the cardiovascular deaths. And now people are living longer. And unfortunately, the longer you live, the more time that there is for your body's cells to mutate and the more time there is for cancer. So unfortunately, as we stop people dying from one set of diseases and we increase the life expectancy, there's going to eventually be something. I don't know at what point where we'll actually just get to the point where people are dying of just old age. But even then, there's still got to be something that actually finishes at the end of old age. Okay, welcome back, Lynn. Supplement herbal teas can have herbs that so a lot of herbal teas, a lot of the different agents, a lot of the plant agents, the thing have chemicals in them. So chemicals exist in everything. So I hope that you are all on board the fact that you have natural chemicals. Chemicals make up the whole world. Everything is made of a chemical. And yes, just because something is a synthetic chemical rather than a natural chemical, they're all chemicals. They all have actions. And herbal teas, that's where the majority of medicinal products have actually come from. Herbs, investigating all the different ingredients that are in herbs. There's so many ingredients. There was a whole list I did of the different nootropics that are in different herbs. Different herbs have lots of other what we call as adaptogens, which are sort of anti-inflammatory agents. But yeah, as a herbal tea, they just have to list sort of what the plants are. You don't necessarily have to. They don't necessarily have to say whether they've got any medicinal qualities or such like. So, but we all that. Oh, thank you. I always feel as though I get so that I'm floundering. It's so hard to keep on top of things. I come with my list, but yes. So it is so hard to keep on top of stress. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, there is so much stress. There's so much external stress to us that then increases our own sort of internal stress. So yeah, it's hard, and we're a product of all our life experiences as well. So it's amazing how much trauma can leave a body response. I can't remember what the name of the book is, but very much it's like something along the lines of the body remembers. And your body can actually hold on to that stress in a very physiological way, holding on to trauma. Yeah, a low fat diet. It can be a bit of a pain. The thing with cholesterol is the majority of your cholesterol level is based on your genetics. So if you've got a high cholesterol, quite often that is due to your genetics. And the only thing that you can do to reduce that is by having a cholesterol lowering agent. But yeah, having a low fat diet can help towards that. But actually, it's more of a balance of being of the, I hate to say sort of good and bad fats, but I have to say it's more of a making sure that you're consuming the right types of fats, the fats that have a benefit in your body. So I don't like to demonize any foods as good or bad, but there are certain sort of agents that are more nutritious and have a better effect on your body. So when you do go for fats, you're better for your fish oils, the omega-3, 6 and 9s. They help with the heart health. They also promote brain health as well, because certain amount of cholesterol and fat is needed for your brain to actually function. They've actually found with people that have too lower fat diets, it can actually cause it can actually worsen depression. I wouldn't say it causes, but it can have a worsening effect. And also things like your fats from your nuts and seeds, they can be of more benefit, and it's cutting down the excess fats from processed foods where you're just getting extra fat without all the nutrition benefits. So if you're having fats within whole foods, you're getting all the other nutrients at the same time. So you're getting your fat soluble vitamins, your A, D, E, and K, along with all your other nutrients. Whereas in processed food, where the fat is just added for taste, you're getting the fat with no extra benefits. Also, saturated fats in your red meats. So I'm not saying don't eat red meat. Red meat is very good for iron and protein, but ensure that you've got the leaner amounts. So even when you're on a low fat diet, think more about that. Don't think about getting rid of all fats. Just put the when you are having fat. And the other thing, rather than thinking of having a low fat diet, is more thinking about having a more of a higher fiber diet and a higher nutrient dense diet. So adding in a lot more sort of vegetables and plant agents, because fiber going through your intestines helps your gut microbiome actually process any of the fats in your food into the correct fat products that your body needs that lower your cholesterol rather than higher your cholesterol. I hope I've explained that. I think I've skipped a whole load of comments while I was talking about that. Migraines, yeah. So migraines, headaches, anxiety attacks. So yeah, migraines can be very, very related to stress. It's also related to do with it, the blood vessels going into your brain. There is also a big connection with migraines and headaches. Migraines is a whole body system response. So obviously you've got your effects on your eyes, you've got your effects on your intestines, and this is where a lot of people you'll hear a lot of the gut brain axis, because quite a lot of times with a migraine you can also have what's called a gut migraine, which is actually a lot more of your IBS symptoms, and there's a big crossover between migraine sufferers and IBS sufferers because of that join. And it's more the fact that just your body is joined. There is nerves going from your intestines up to your brain and from your brain to intestines. You've got to have that two-way communication. Your intestines is where you're absorbing all your nutrients, and then your brain is where you're controlling all your body movements. It's not that your gut is your second brain. Your gut is your gut. It just happens to have the main job of absorbing all your nutrients, and therefore it does do a certain amount of regulating what do we need in the system, which the brain is telling it what's needed in the system, and it's absorbing, and then it's giving the signals back up to the brain. This is what I've absorbed, this is what I need. So it's more that it's they are the two control centers, but it's your gut doesn't do any cognitive thinking. It's not a cognitive thinking brain, it's just part of your whole body process. Yeah, it is, but actually this is my day-to-day job, because my day-to-day job is being a prescribing advisor. My day job is just as long as I write guidelines, I produce guidelines, I analyze all the data of all the prescriptions that are being given both by GPs and by the hospital, but I am also on call all the time to answer any questions from my GPs, my nurses, my reception staff. So I'm always just on call to answer questions. So I get them for multiples. They'll either phone me up, they'll send me tasks through the computer system, emails through the computer system. So yeah, I'm always on. We do get the same questions quite often. But yeah, it is my day-to-day job, just keep answering questions on different things. Calcium, thank you. That's the one. The body keeps the stock score. It's very useful for anybody that has to deal with any children that are struggling with trauma. But yeah, also adults that are keeping that have had trauma. So yeah, Helen again. Again, yeah, the active ingredients vary so much, so the blend can be slightly different each time. Obviously, every brand is totally different. And then it also depends on how strong you make the tea. Do you leave it percolating for how long? Some people with lot with herbal teas, you leave the tea bag in, and as it comes down, so you can end up with quite a high concentration by the time you get to the bottom of the cup. And then obviously you've got the amount of different cups. Some people can get through lots of cups of tea a day. Some people only have, I think. Good. Yeah, salmon and oily fish, excellent choices. Thank you. I really do love doing them, and I am sort of trying to work out what my which way I take my channel. Much as I love doing the videos, I quite often overly do them. So I spend so much time researching, putting them in, getting them in the right order. Then when I actually film it, I spend so much time making sure exactly what I say in each section is exactly right. My daughter gets quite frustrated at me because the amount of times that I'll do 10 seconds, stop, go back to the start for 10 seconds, and then editing and put together. And I put a lot of time into them, and my actual videos don't get that much watch time. Whereas actually when I come on to the live streamings, although I do a bit of preparation on whatever I've said the main topic is, the majority of my knowledge I can just info dump on people. So in a way, my live streams has got me the most watch hours so far. So and I can just info dump. I just have to find out that, yeah, as long as my live streams don't get too boring, I do need to make sure that we've got different subjects each time, so there's something new for everybody. I do love ginger. Yeah, Michael, yeah, I love ginger. I had my Chinese last night was chicken with spring onion and ginger. Very, very nice. Oh. Yeah, Lynn, mine always start with an aura. And then I just have to go lay in a dark room for 4 to 6 hours and let the medication think. But even for me, the medication doesn't do as much as either preventing it in the first place or carrying on. But I was going to say migraines, I could do a whole video on migraines. So the whole prevention of migraines is massive opening out. I'm currently on, I'd say I'm on 3 different agents for preventing migraines. So propranolol, which is a beta blocker, it helps with migraines, but I actually take it because I've got postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, so it helps with that. And I've also got essential tremors, so it helps with that. So it's a trio. Then amitriptyline can help with migraines, so I take that, but I also take it for neuropathic pain and my chronic pain and to help with sleep. And then I do have Botox injections, not as often as I should, but because as you can see, it is wearing off now. But yeah, if you have Botox injections around the base of your scalp, it can help against migraines. And now we've got some newer biological agents for the treatment of migraines, as well as there's some anti-epileptics can be used for migraines. So a whole host of things which all work better than migraines. Actually, it was migraine treatment that I was going to, when I talked about the Eloise strips. I don't know whether I've got time to talk about that. Yeah, we have a complicated stack of meat and go. Oh, I can't remember. There was one of the blokes on Insta last night one of the doctors who called breasts biological airbags. I thought, yeah. Yeah, you definitely have a way with words, Kate. Yeah. Yeah. it is complex. I'm not a nutritionist, and so I can only do things from things, but it is finding out what is triggering your metabolism. You do have to be careful that if you are going lower than the 2,000 calories a day, are you actually putting your body into sort of starvation mode? And also, is your exercise continually building up muscle, and you've not got as much fat? So there's a whole thing, but I'm not a nutritionist on that. Oh, when did I make you mod? I made a few random people mods who I've appreciated in other live streams as being mods. So I have made some random people mods. So sorry if you're randomly a mod and I didn't actually ask you. I just thought, oh, those people seem to be very sensible, very nice. And I think that if they're a mod, that they would actually kick off a bot. So sorry if I never actually asked anybody to be mods, but I did just randomly. YouTube said, do you want some mods? And I just randomly picked a few people's names that I thought, yeah, they're sensible people that are always on lives and being sensible. Yeah, Sam, migraines, they're not a headache, they're a whole body system condition. Yeah, sumatriptan, it was one of the drugs that was, I learned about it at university. It was one of the first drugs that was actually created and researched specifically for migraines and how the blood vessels into the brain are affected during a migraine. And then they actually looked at exactly what the receptors were, made a molecule that actually fitted into that receptor. So the pharmacology behind the research and development of the triptans is amazing. And yeah, so then the whole triptan range came out. But they were one of the first times of using the research and development of actual using sort of 3D modeling of a molecule to fit into a receptor, rather than just throwing a whole load of chemicals at the body and seeing what they're doing. They were actually going down to the molecular level of how the molecule fitted into a receptor. But then also, these were one of the first set of drugs that they started using for sublingual medications, because they were like, great, we've got this thing for treating migraines, but all our migraine sufferers, as soon as they've got a migraine, I've got nausea and vomiting, and their stomachs can't actually absorb anything. So unless they can get in there just before the aura and before the stomach switches off, we can't get it into the system. So how else can we get into the system? And obviously there's injections, but trying to train people to give self-inject can be problematic as well. And also having a whole, back at the time, that was before they developed sort of EpiPens that easily inject. So they came up with the sublingual method of medications, where you could actually put something against the side of the mouth and the molecule could get absorbed through the side of the mouth, which is what Eloise and some other supplement companies are trying to claim badly. But sublingual and buccal administration of medication has been around for decades. Started off with sumatriptan and with the GTNs for angina, and literally you can put it in between either the lip and the gum and allow it to dissolve, and it gets straight into the bloodstream from the mouth, or under the tongue and allow it to dissolve, and it can get straight into the bloodstream from under the tongue. However, when you're having these things that say that they're buccal administration or thing, and they're saying put it on the top of the tongue, that doesn't work. Your tongue itself has no way of absorbing it. It's got all your taste receptors on it that feel for taste, but it doesn't actually absorb anything in. It has to be either under the tongue or between the gum and the side of the mouth for it to actually absorb straight into the bloodstream. And yes, there is the thing that if it absorbs buccally, it goes straight into the bloodstream and straight to the rest of the body. So it does miss what's classed as first pass metabolism whereas the majority of stuff that goes into your stomach and into your intestines to get absorbed, the majority of that tries to go through your liver, and your liver does a quick check for toxins first before it then puts it around the rest of the body. But with the Eloise strips and such like, they're not being absorbed buccally. They're going on your tongue, they're going in your stomach, and they are going through first pass metabolism. Oh. Marie, that is a perfect way of putting it. Yeah, the guts are the workers on the floor, brain is the boss, need communication with them both. Yeah. So the workers on the floor know what's happening, and without them telling the brain has no idea. So they're just as important messages up as messages down. And yeah, any company that doesn't listen to the workers on the floor is going to fail. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. Migraines can be hormonal dependent, and if they are hormonally dependent migraines, then sometimes certain hormone, HRT or going on the pill can actually lessen them. But then that's a risk you've got to weigh up with the fact that there's an increased risk of stroke with combined contraception and with migraines. So oh, yeah, nasal sprays as well. So Imigran, again, it's another triptan. And again, there was the nasal form. So for the people that finding another way, couldn't swallow tablets, you can do it as a nasal spray. You've got a lot of blood vessels on the inner lining of your nose. So some nasal sprays, if the drug molecule's correct and in the formulation, it can then go through the lining of the nose straight into the bloodstream. They do say because it's close to the brain, but it's not necessarily. Yes, some of it will go straight to the brain, but most of it will just go around the body and then back up to your brain. But it's just a quick way of it going into the bloodstream. Yeah. Mine always want sugary teas and cakes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Caffeine. The thing with caffeine and migraines, some people can actually have what's called caffeine withdrawal migraines. It's one thing that my mum used to struggle on. Every morning before work, she would have a cup of coffee. Come to a Saturday or a Sunday, if she had a lay-in and she didn't have that start of the caffeine in the morning, she would then have a caffeine withdrawal migraine. So she learned that she had to, even if she wanted to lie in and a rest on a Saturday, she still had to get up at the same time, go and have a cup of coffee, and then go and have a chill. But yeah, caffeine can actually then help with the migraine by dilating the blood vessels and helping the blood flow. Also, caffeine actually can work synergistically in helping paracetamol work and other opioids and painkillers working as well. So yeah, so if you do need the codeine, make sure you take the caffeine with it because it works. Yeah, you can justify your Botox bill. So yeah, I've had Botox on and off for probably about 10 years purely for the migraines because I don't fit the criteria for having it on the NHS. To have it on the NHS, I think you need to have at least 20 migraine days a month. And I don't have that. At one point, I was having 2 or 3 migraines a month, but not at the 20 plus days. So I've always paid privately for my Botox, but as you can tell, I don't need it for vanity reasons. I am side effect of having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is the fact that I have a lovely, smooth, wrinkle-free skin. So I may not look it, but I am 46 because the EDS gives me lovely, soft skin. Totally destroys my insides and my joints, but never mind. Shape with health it's not accurate at all. What you look like from the outside and what the inner workings on your inside are totally different things. I used to be one of the skinniest people and really ill. And now I'm overweight. All the same problems are there. Thyroid is always worth checking out. Anybody that gets unknown weight gain, feels cold, can't warm up, lacking in energy, it's always worth getting your thyroid checked. And sometimes, it's worth making sure you've got a fasting blood test for certain things. Yeah. Excellent. I'm quite far behind, I think, in these. Okay. I'm assuming they probably gave you something that was an antihistamine. Antihistamines that have a sedative component to it can help calm anxiety attacks, but they also can be excellent in as if there's an allergic component to itchy skin. I'm assuming that normally what they give for panic attacks can be beta blockers. And whenever anybody sort of says about they've just given me medicines for my anxiety attacks, the actual beta blockers is treating the physiological reaction to the cortisol for a panic attack. So actually, I always say that that's actually the best treatment, because it's actually it's letting you know that they believe that your panic attacks are real because you are having a real body response to it. And actually having the beta blocker to lower your heart rate can do a lot, because once you get into having the raised heart rate and the raised cortisol, it then makes any anxiety that you have even worse during the panic attack. So when I did go through having panic attacks, having the propranolol for the other reasons I have them, for the tachycardia, for the essential tremor and the migraines. It's a 4-way drug. Also can treat high blood pressure and help with lowering your risk of a heart attack as well. So extra tests with normal thyroid, yes. So it's always useful with thyroid. You have 2 thyroid hormones, the T3 and the T4. The T4 is the active levothyroxine, and the T3 is sort of one of the precursors, and you check both levels. But you also have something that also needs testing, which is called the thyroid stimulating hormone, and that's produced by the pituitary gland in your brain. And if you thyroid levels are too low, it should then be produced and should be high to signal to your thyroid to produce more. Or if that is low and switched off, then it may be that signal's not actually telling your thyroid to produce any thyroxine. So thyroid testing, thyroid stimulating hormone should always be tested alongside with the thyroid to know whether the cause is the thyroid gland or the pituitary gland, and the miscommunication between the two. Yeah, I think I might add migraine onto my list of potential subjects. What I would say is, if you're taking migraine medications for preventing a migraine, never suddenly stop taking them, because obviously then a sudden drop of not taking them would then trigger you having a whole set of them. So if you are having a whole load of migraine medicines to prevent them and you think they're under control and you want to try coming off them, I would go step by step with your healthcare professional on which one to stop first, lower, and come off them. As for trying to deal with a migraine without your meds. It's something you can do. Migraines, with taking medicines, it reduces the length of them, it reduces the severity of them. Sometimes people feel as though they don't want to do that and they just want to have the migraine. Personally, I would say if you've got the meds there, you can use them. If you want to try any other sort of supplements or anything, you can try them, but talk to your doctor about it. Don't just sort of suddenly stop taking them and not take them and suffer. There are, if that particular medicine that you're taking you don't feel happy with, there's newer and newer agents coming out with migraine medications now. Always go talk to your doctor. If you don't like the side effect to the particular migraine med that you're on, then there may be a new alternative that's out that may be more suitable. I would say then there was a good probability that it was hormonal migraines. Yeah, quite often. Sometimes if you should always try with medication the lowest effective dose that's needed, and if you find less side effects but it's still effective, then going down to a lower dose is always useful. There's quite a few medicines where going down to the child dose, especially for somebody who may be either more sensitive to medication, so they quite often need a lower dose, or if they are of a lower body weight, or quite often what is classed as a lower lean body weight. So you're a smaller build, you may have a weight, but your body is of a smaller amount. Yeah, right. This quite often happens whenever anybody does a detox, the detox headaches. A lot of all these supplement things, and they all go, the detox headaches is your body getting rid of toxins. Quite often it isn't. It's you started whatever regime they've told you to, and you've cut caffeine out of your system, and you're just actually getting a caffeine withdrawal headache. Demi, I probably explained that wrong. Sometimes certain types of migraine can put people at an increased risk of stroke, and certain types of birth control can cause an increased risk of strokes. So quite often, they don't like starting birth control on people who have got a history of migraines unless they talk about this. So it's just something. One of the ticks when you're starting on birth control is because birth control can very, very slight. But when I'm talking about slight risks, I'm talking about from a risk of 2 in 1,000 over the next 5-10 years to say 3 in 1,000 over the next 5 years. It's still very low rates, but there is a slight increase in rate. They'll probably have wanted you to have the progesterone only rather than the ones containing estrogen. Yeah, exactly, Lynn. Again, cutting sudden change in your sugar is a shock to your body's system. So if your body's used to dealing with you having sugar all the time, and then suddenly you go no sugar and keto or something like that, then your body's suddenly going, well, I'm used to a normal sugar hit now. Where's my sugar hit? And I'm going to have to now do a process where I produce my own sugar in my body. And it can cause problems, and that's another thing. But then you'll have your supplement. If you're doing a detox by a supplement company or whatever, they'll be trying to tell you that it's a good thing, but it's a shock to your system. I would always say with any changes, do it slow and steady. Because that's also the best way to introduce another habit to your life. It's not a sudden change in habit. You're more likely to continue it if you've actually brought it into your lifestyle, sort of gradually. Yeah, Sam. Well, my one, I think, my worst migraine. I think I lost 72 hours, literally. It was my first one. It was. I went clubbing when I was at university, and they kept the strobe light on way too long, and I ended up just collapsing on the dance floor because it was just too much. It wasn't an epileptic fit; it was just thing, and it started a migraine, and that was it. I was floored for about, I think I lost sort of, 3 or 4 days of being unconscious on and off in my bedroom. My then boyfriend was very worried about me. And since then, that's what triggered me starting having migraines as an adult. Hydroxyzine. We do have it as an antihistamine here in the UK, but it's classed as sort of an old style agent, and it's not very used very often. If it is used, it's usually used by dermatology for immense itching that they can't get under control for any other way. So that's the only time it's really used in the UK. It is by dermatologists, but yeah, it's usually classed as an old style antihistamine. It isn't used very often. Okay. Lisa, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hitting perimenopause. I'm really hoping. Yeah. Oh, I think I've caught up on my comments. Finally. Yeah. I'm still a bit of a sugar off it addict. But yeah, I know I'm better off having high sugar levels than not, but yeah. This was one thing I was trying to explain in another thing. Whenever any of them saying about sugar feeding different conditions, sugar feeding your different body conditions, and that you need to cut sugar out of your diet when they're feeding these different conditions, or even when they're feeding cancer. Your actual sugar level, your dietary sugars don't affect your sugar levels that badly unless you're actually diabetic. So obviously with diabetes, if you've got type 2 or type 1 diabetes and you haven't got the insulin production, or you've got insulin resistance, and your sugar levels rise, and they can be raised high above the normal range, then you do get side effects from that high level of sugar, which is all the side effects of it affects your kidneys. You usually end up urinating a lot, which then causes you to be dehydrated, and you've got a high amount of thirst. The high sugar levels can then increase your risk of damage of your nerves and your blood vessels, especially at the extremities, in your eyes, in your kidneys, in different areas of your body. It can also put you at increased risk of infections because the higher sugar levels can cause that. However, for somebody who is non-diabetic, your sugar levels of your body will always be in range, and cutting sugar out your diet doesn't actually do much. So for the majority of people, you will eat your lunch, you will have a bit of a spike, and your body will fetch it back to normal. But even if you don't eat sugar and you cut sugar fully out of your diet, as in you've cut out near enough every ounce of glucose out of your diet, and everything that you eat is non-sugar, and you go sort of totally keto, you only have fats and proteins, and you don't have any sugar, your body will still have glucose circulating at a normal level, because your body will convert protein, convert fat into sugar, and your body will still be circulating sugar around it. So all of these people saying, I'm cutting sugar out so that I'm not feeding my cancer, it won't make any difference. Your body's still going to have glucose sugar circulating at the same level because your body will produce glucose by another mechanism. So, yeah, so you can't just cut sugar out your diet to not have sugar circulating. It doesn't work like that. Obviously, continually giving yourself high sugar levels and forcing your body to have to produce the high level of insulin to deal with it and fetch it back down does lead to insulin resistance, does increase other issues. But yeah, just trying to go keto to cut sugar out your diet is not going to solve issues. Yeah, that exactly, Marie. That's why we have insulin in the body, keeping blood sugar levels in check. It's also the other thing that really annoys me, the blood glucose sensors. There's a big health trend for healthy people to use these blood glucose sensors on their arms. And then they go, wow, I've eaten sugar. Wow, my sugar level went up. Wow, it went back down again. And it's like, yeah, and that's normal. It doesn't mean that you then have to try not having any sugar in your diet. If it's gone back down again, absolutely brilliant. Your body knows how to produce insulin. Your body's done what it needs to do. Don't worry about it. If it stays raised, well, then you need to go for an appointment with your GP to get tested for diabetes, and then you get the treatment for diabetes. You don't need to get worried about the fact that you get a spike with the thing. So the use of glucose monitoring when you don't have diabetes, there isn't actually much use for, because you just need to follow a normal healthy diet. Yeah, so this can happen. So as I was saying, if you eat sugar, there's two ways that your body can get rid of the sugar. So you will eat sugar and your body will normalize that straight away. One of the ways is your body will produce insulin to lower your blood glucose. But sometimes while it is high and your body is waiting for the insulin to work, one way it can go out is your kidneys can kick the sugar out into your bladder and you can excrete it. So if your bladder is then full of sugary urine, then that does provide sugar in your urinary tract for any bacteria that might be there to then use that sugar. So that's why having high sugar levels can increase UTIs, and especially with people that are diabetic, because they're obviously the sugar levels, the insulin's not lowering the sugar levels, the kidneys are always doing that. So there's always sugars in the bladder and they being excreted. There is also one of the diabetic medications that has come out more recently called the Flozins, and it works by kicking out more sugar via the kidneys than what's normal, and it does slightly increase the risk of UTIs as well. So, all right. I've been talking for well over an hour and a half, and I haven't even moved on to onto the Eloise products, so I may leave them until next time. All I was just going to say is that they don't get absorbed in the mouth, and they're not actually big enough to contain the correct levels of any of their ingredients to actually do much. But it is interesting that the drugs that they have put in the new agent, they are all of these nootropics that technically would increase your brain function if they were in a high enough dose to actually do anything. And one of them, actually, the Aria Janaris plant extract, it's actually banned in Australia because it's related to other agents of abuse. So, yeah. Oh, just having a vagina's a wild ride, Kate, definitely. Oh, so sometimes I wished I didn't have one. They just got rid of it all, but yeah. yeah, I say that's not me not being happy with the rest of my body, just the whole reproductive issues that I've had. So thank you all for making it such a nice discussion. I like actually having all your feedback, knowing that when I'm explaining things that you're actually getting some value out of it. Make sure that you just keep coming on my page and asking me the questions that you want me to do in future videos. Whether I make these lives more frequent, but I do want to make sure that I'm producing those videos that I've got that resource for people. There's so much that I just want to be a resource of sensible information out there when people go searching for things. Yeah. Kate, Duderus. Okay. Why does he call it oh, as in a uterus? I'm trying to work that one out. Is he? Yeah. So yeah, definitely could do with getting rid of a uterus. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for all for being here, Mr. Angel Ab, Demi, Sam, Lisa, Marie. Excellent. And anybody else that's still hanging on. It says that I've got 18 of you still. It's brilliant. I hope that you've preferred me using StreamYard. I've not got all of the aspects of StreamYard. What I'm just going to try and do is just learn one new thing each time, improve my technical abilities on everything. Yeah, Aduderus. Yeah. Okay. Lovely to see you all, and I'll see you again soon. Yeah, stay hydrated, everybody. Bye.